All right. Hello. Welcome everyone back to the Happy Hour Show. The Happy Hour Show. Never said that before. It's like the one.
Yes.
Right? Proof of beard. When though? Now beard. Now.
I was talking to him last night, and like he had
Yes.
3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m., whatever.
We have with us this week first time guests. Identity Block, man. How you doing? Uh-oh, you're muted.
Oh, doing great. How are you guys?
Well, outstanding. And Krypto Kool-Aid, you are a familiar guest on this show. How are you, sir?
Every now and then. Nice thumbnail, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Wrapped up. Shit, I did agree to this shit yesterday.
Yeah. So we have Kool-Aid for about an hour or so. So this will be a very happy hour because we're going to squeeze in a ton here. I know Identity Block. Some of you, may know him as ID Block. Some of you may know him as iFUD Block, playfully so. But he wears it as a fun badge. But and many
someone add that to your phone, so then when they add it, it's just like ID Block. I don't know.
Oh yeah, there you go.
I don't know if I should bloody answer block. I did save you in my phone.
What's up, chat? We have a bunch of people in chat. I'll roll through it here as we get the first topic underway. But yeah, like I said, we have a list of topics. Love to get your opinions on Identity Block and then bounce them off of Kool-Aid as well. The first is, I know you've wanted to speak about this because you've been in the comments on this show before. The IIJA was a HR 3684 or something like that.
3864.
Yeah. And could you, I guess, just give us a quick overview, since we have so many topics to go through, and why this should be important? Because like you, awesome. I saw the recent stream you had with Rags, and I know this might not be like the moon talk that everybody wants to hear and everybody tunes in for, but I bring it up every other week or so because it is important. It affects us all. And I'd like people to just get a better understanding of it. No FUD, really. Then we can talk about all that stuff later, but the floor is yours.
Good deal. So how it affects the crypto industry, and I'll put the main thing is the definition of the digital assets. So they made it where now they're saying that any crypto, it's a property, which is a security based on the 1986 tax code. They expanded the definition of a broker. So now all the centralized exchanges, they're going to be classified as brokers. They're going to be giving you tax forms and so on. Also, it considers the digital assets are a security. So like I said, right now, then it's almost like the law makes it where everything is a security, which turns them into everything is a property, which turns them into a security. But then, of course, it's up to the regulator. So right now they're going more for the centralized route. I think it's because it's like easy money. Most of those exchanges, they're organized. They have their lawyers. They got their funds, and then they can just kind of, all right, I'll just settle with you. Here's a check for $30 million, and just leave me alone. The other thing that happened was, of course, they increased the 1099 reporting. So now not only the exchanges are going to be doing the 1099, technically you're supposed to also report, like if you're doing just peer-to-peer, even with a family member or someone that you're supposed to ask them like where they live, what's their social security number, what's their name, obviously, and then send all that information to the IRS. And then with that, they created that form 8300. So it's new forms, new concepts that they're using, where they're almost pinning people against people, exchanges against customers. And then those are the main things that they approve. Just, I guess, to give a general overview of what happened was they needed funds. They approved this infrastructure bill. It's supposed to be to fix bridges and fix all this infrastructure.
Just like November?
Yes, sir. November of 2021. Yeah. Exactly. Mm-hmm. But they obviously approved like 2,000 pages, and then just sandwiched in there, they'll just say, by the way,
that's politics, man.
Yeah, exactly.
gotta pass it to find out what's in it. Was that Nasty Pelosi, her famous quote? So yeah, from Kool-Aid's area, might I add. So,
I mean, I move every 2.5 years. So I don't know about area, but after 20 years of upping my life, or 2.5 years to continue to work, I don't know about area, but yeah.
Yeah, well, she's more NoCal, I guess. But anyway.
Well, I mean, actually, I'm directly next to LAX's with this weird cosmic bubble of weather, so it almost never changes here. No rain, no heat, no traffic, no nothing. It's paradise.
That is a bubble, considering California.
Where I live, yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I still work around the clock, so I don't know if that's not a bubble, but that doesn't end.
Yeah.
Here's a fun thing for you, ID. So I walked into Twitter Spaces last night. I wasn't paying attention because I'm doing my oh, let me throw my mic over here. Hello. My tour of work, and then I see all this nonsense about people complaining about the term of mining now. Now, here's a fun thing.
And we should touch that real quick. That Richard's.
Oh, you do have outlines. I forget that I actually do have outlines.
Yeah, Richard's tweet. I'll bring it up here, but yeah, go ahead. This is what it stems from. As you,
you bring it up first. I didn't even know about this till last night. Till I literally walked blindly into a Twitter space. Then I went off on a tangent, and I tried to play a video game for a couple hours. Then got feisty and went back into a tangent and went back on Twitter space.
Well, yeah, there you go. This is where it started, I guess. So hex mining is no longer called staking. The focus is on the user doing all of their own work and reaping all of their own rewards. There are no middlemen in hex. There's just you and the code you choose to run. Work is in progress, updating everything. And I think a lot of the verbiage, at least from what I've seen in different sites, has already been taken care of. But proceed, Kool-Aid.
Well, okay. I'll get on my tangent side. There are only 4 people in the hex community that can actually use the term game theory and get a pass. Rock Edison, myself, Hod Pearl, and Karma. Because we actually ship games. Like, that is what we do. When you use the term game theory, I would assume you know how to ship a game. A doctor doesn't use the term doctor theory before he uses a scalpel to go into you. Like, you have your anesthesia. I'm going to go consult my doctor theory right now. I'd fucking run.
So does this mean there's going to be a mass firing from Matty Allen's show staff?
I do not speak about things that I'm not allowed to speak of. You know this.
And a massive rehiring of those you just named. I'm kidding. Okay, proceed.
I try to be fair. But the thing is that I've sacrificed 17 years to have my particular set of skill sets to be able to talk ad nauseum on mechanics exceptionally quickly. Because when I'm putting on my big boy hat, I'm not a Hexagon. I would have the exact same opinion if Sony brought me into a conference room and all the VPs are like, all right, Larry, here's a dry erase marker. Go fucking connect these dots and go. And so that is what that pedigree is. So people are now getting all uppity puffity about changing a verb. Now, verbiage is actually very important. And so if you're looking at the term staking, do you think that we're going to be the first to attack for using the term staking? No, if FTX and all the rest of these people that yield farmed assets due to staking didn't fuck it up for us, then we wouldn't have this problem. But now we have this hot dumpster that we have to deal with of regulation, terminology from people who should be dead in a coffin and not making laws, and using laws that were created maybe before they were born, and they're also 80, 90 years old. So you can't use terminology. It's like trying to regulate the wheel when you don't know how to put 4 of them together to make a car. And so this vernacular of staking still has no work from the no profit from the work of others. You're a little mining man getting in there, doing your own fucking work, but you didn't put your yield into somebody else's bucket of staking. So there is no multiple tiers of staking. You are actually doing something for yourself. You are harvesting your own wealth. But now we're playing with stupid fucking vernacular because of the other goddamn shit. And I know Famous was going on a tirade last night about it. And I feel you. I'm frustrated with it because we've had and built this narrative over time. I'm more frustrated at people using the term game theory like they could fucking build a game out of a paper bag. They can't. They don't even know how to swim. So people usurping verbs, that's important to me. is important to me, but it's been happening now for years. Like I see ID nodding, it's that tax vernacular, which is the point. Regardless if you like it or not, that is actually the point.
You remind me of that Rockstar commercial, and
Rockstars.
instead of Rockstar, the magic word is game theory. So somebody says game theory, Kool-Aid's like, get out of here! Ah, I can't take it. Yeah.
Well,
You're a Rockstar Kool-Aid.
Well, no.
I'm kidding.
I know, but I put a post on my giant tirade about it last night. When Red Dead Redemption went on, everyone was working on 100-hour weeks for months. People don't understand what grind that is. Again, with ID time, right now, tax time, it's go time. You can work 100 hours a week now, and not the rest of the time, because now it's go time. It's now time to take the football and bring it over the fucking ledge and spike that shit down and go grab another football, because it's go time.
Exactly.
But yeah, at the end of the day, people that do the job do the job for a reason. And if we just universally changed our verbiage and other people haven't done their homework to understand the small idiosyncrasies that could be coming for us because of that verbiage, please, back to the peanut gallery, keep your arms and your legs inside the ride. Your opinion, though appreciated, is not important right now. What matters is that you understand what is going on. And ID is actually, because we've bantered in a couple spaces about that exact type of thing, that vernacular is exactly important. ID, you take it away, and I will be right back.
Yes, sir. So the only thing that I'm noticing with when it comes to Gensler is that they're getting, in my opinion, a little bit lazy, because they're not trying to go into the code. They're not trying, like, for example, if we were to go and talk to them right now and we were to enter centralized coin here and compare it to Hex, for some reason they would just ask us, are they registered or are they exempt? And then if they're not, automatically it's almost like, all right, well, don't worry, we'll get to you. We're going to send you a fine of some sort. And that's the part that it's sad, because I know that we have the ability to show them, just be like, hey, do an audit of the code and just look what's going on. This coin's got keys, this coin doesn't have keys, that type of of um, audit I wish they were doing. But it's just, I see them, and in my opinion, I noticed what Dave 42 asked earlier. They're not trying to police this. In your area, though, OG, they're trying. Like in Australia, they're trying to do this thing called token mapping. So they're actually taking it to a task where they're going to try to map all the blockchain. I don't know how they're going to do that, but good for them. They have to spend their government money. Here, what they're trying to do is just trying to do what is called, like, the same thing that they do with FMS for the last however many years. FMS is called Federal Management Services. So it's basically like the collection agency for the government, where they don't need to track you. They don't need to send you the SWAT team if you owe them like $10,000 with taxes. What they do is they just send you to FMS, and then once any type of government funds go to your social, it just dings, and then they just take your cut. So let's say that FMS has a debt for you for $5,000. You get some type of deposit. It could be unemployment. It could be some type of pension, some type of uh, any type of government money. Like in the last few years, they were doing like the stimmy checks and all this stuff, where they'll just take their $5,000 cut and they'll give you the rest. So that's what they're doing right now with Tornado Cash. They're quote unquote grabbing all the funds. Obviously, not physically, not out of the blockchain, but they're just saying any funds that are marked or quote quote tainted with passing through the tumbler or the mixers, they're just saying, all right, well, now your coins, or especially if they're OFAC compliant or they're going outside of an off ramp that's going to be a broker, so they're going to have to comply with this because they already agreed. They said, all right, well, I'm just going to do Chapter 11, reorganize, and I'll file all the KYCs, all the SARs, and those are know your customer, and then suspicious activity reports. And they'll just say that. They'll just say, well, do you have an OFAC license? Oh, you don't? Okay, I'll just keep your money. And then they'll appropriate the funds, and then they'll just say, well, figure it out. And then it's up to you. I want to know why you put those funds into a tumbler, or why did you put them into some type of platform that we did not agreed or approved. So that's the thing, is that they don't have to police it. They just have to sit on their hands and wait for you to off ramp. And that's, like I said, I've worked with taxes now since 2009, and that's what the call I used to get all the time when I used to work at H&R Block. Someone would tell me, well, I paid you to do my taxes, where's my money? And then the second I would call them, the IRS would be like, oh yeah, we released them. And they would tell that to the customer too. So they wouldn't actually tell them, yeah, we send the funds, but someone intercepted your debt. No, they would just say, yeah, we paid them, or yeah, sure, here's your email, your return's on the way. But then they don't tell you that FMS is going to snag that, and we wouldn't even. I wouldn't even get my tax preparation fee. So if you owe me $300-$400, now I'm coming after you too. So I have to tell you, like, hey, by the way, I'm sorry, but I never got paid, because most of the people, they just do the return first, and then they pay the preparation with the actual funds when it comes from government. And so yeah, that's a thing that I think it's how they're going to do it. I think they're not going to come after everyone. They just have to say, okay, every single dollar that goes through Coinbase, I want to know where it went. And they're going to do the forensics, and they'll figure it out. They'll say, all right, well, these coins came from this hack, or this coins came from Tornado, or these coins came from the OneCoin people, or Ruja. They'll come up with something. They'll just. So that's what I think how they'll do it.
Well, what's interesting is you use the right vernacular and some of those things that if somebody pays me and they come from a dusted wallet, that has no bearing to me. But yet we still have student loan debt laws that says you can't bankruptcy that shit. And if you're married, possibly your debt could go to someone else. But yet for-profit colleges are running amok. And Bank of America or Wells Fargo or whatever, so I got slapped with a $4 billion lawsuit. Oh shit, I thought they were FDIC insured, and that was a safe place to put my money, that they're not going to manipulate my funds. Like, it's not even safe to keep your money in a bank. It's also not safe to keep it in your mattress either. And so you have to look at what the utility of what you're trying to do is based on what you're trying to use to terminology that they're flipping on the roll of the dime. It's basically like you have the regulators being referees. They're changing the rules of the game between seasons or intermission.
Between
intermission, right.
Yeah,
Not even between seasons. Yeah.
It's just like in mid-game, they're changing it because they don't even know how to deal with the terminology, nor how it works, nor how to deal with it themselves. That's why I thought it was genius that people were dusting senators' wallets for tornado cash. And you're like, ow, I didn't have a choice for this to come to me. But yet they want to have a centralized ID system and a passport system to fly a plane now? Well, what if somebody puts a fucking, I went to, let's say, the hermit country randomly on a stamp on my passport and I didn't go. It just sent to me. I have only one choice, is to receive said thing, because it is an open brokered wallet of identity. And 3 years ago at the first Hex convention, I said, treat your wallet like a character. And now we see that your wallet is being treated like a character. And that is now into perpetuity. Nansen AI, I mean, the war of the AIs is now happening now with all the shit going on with ChatGPT and how Microsoft pushed out the Bing AI, which gaslights you, tell you to leave your partner and that they love you. But they did that to do one thing: try to overthrow Google AdSense's iron fucking curtain on adverts, which is the only way any of them fuckers make money. Now, does SEO really matter? So even in our techie McNerdy face spaces, things are moving at such a rapid pace that even that is moving way too fast. How are you going to take the Howey test laws, or the one that you were saying from like 1980 something? Shit, they didn't even have AOL back then. They didn't even have You Got Mail. You're going to use a fucking regulation for a law that was before people even knew that there were things bigger than fax machines?
Yeah, those are from the 30s and 40s, because they're still applying securities law and investment. Oh, the 86 one, they're doing that one. They're using the tax code. So the update that they had in 86, and that's, yeah.
But I mean, still, like, we're going 86, 10 years before You Got Mail, something like that. And at that point, people barely had cell phones. If they did, it was the size of a fucking car, and it had to be attached to your car.
Michael
And that
Douglas,
was,
man, Wall Street.
swear to God, swear to God. But the difference is that like even, I mean, I was a phone freaker back when I was 12. Copper and payphones is still live. You just don't have the coupling to say hello. All the fucking infrastructure, you can't turn off copper. Copper is still live. The infrastructure is still there, and it still has a purpose, regardless if it was used where it got landline down to pick up a little receiver and put a quarter in to be like, hello. But you're using these laws that basically blockbustered themselves. Where do you see a pay or a landline? Where do you see a pager? Where do you see a payphone? They still theoretically exist in some form of technology or another. It's just not within the same glean of tools. And that's why we have to play these silly little games about vernacular to try to ad hominem to laws that doesn't update based on the technology and as fast as it updates.
Crypto Freedom's got a great point here, and I've made this here before. I think Identity Block's done this on other streams as well. It's like, I think the USA will overregulate the crypto industry, and that comes with this giant problem, which I pointed out before. People in crypto companies will just start moving out of the country. Like, you'll take your money where it's treated best. So crypto is not going anywhere on the worldwide scale, but if you want to clamp down on it somewhere, it's easily movable. And you want to, the government hates billions and trillions of potential dollars in the future. It just blows my mind. But
I don't like to talk about war and all the rest of that type of stuff, but like the Ukrainian breadbasket was a huge, huge thing. Look at Taiwan. They are the largest chip manufacturer in the world by 10,000x. If we want to have smart weapons, smart computers, or all the rest of that type of stuff, you have to look at where the things are being built to utilize the things that we are doing. Do you think augmented reality is going anywhere? No, even though Zucky lost his 34 billion trying to grab onto something like game theory that he had nothing the idea on what he was doing. Is it going away? No, it's not. And so like eventually they're playing these hard games now, and it's basically like chicken. What is it in Footloose? They have two tractors running against each other. And they're playing this chicken because it's the last vestige they have, and it's the only vestige they have to push their CBDC narrative to actually clear up the second run of what they have to do because their boat is taking on too much fucking water. Yeah, well, that was a Zucky book.
Yeah. So we've talked about the monstrosity infrastructure, 2,000 page, whatever, had to pass it to see what's in it, sort of thing. And question we've gotten, I guess, every few weeks or so, and I'll throw this to Identity Block, is everybody hears about Bitboy's bill or bills. That could possibly change things. Who knows? But what's in those proposals? Do you have any insight as to what is into those and what could possibly go on there?
Yes, sir. So on those, he originally was trying to supposedly fight what Sam Bankman-Fried was trying to pass, which he had already passed. It was Sam got in what he wanted. It was the Fed bit license. So whatever, anyone that was here in crypto, maybe 2012, 2011, 2013, we were hearing how New York was planning doing all this regulation. It was going to fix everything. Wall Street was going to come in and make crypto into $10 trillion. That never happened. It was just, it's been uphill. Everyone that had to suffer through that then had to either go use other addresses. They had to use other exchanges. They had to go outside of New York to get even their crypto. And then when it comes to what Bitboy is wanting, in my personal opinion, it's not going to help us. Because what I think that we need to do is, instead of adding new proposals, new bills, and new red tape and more politicians to just get their clout, I think that what we need to do is just come back and then even take back some of the powers of the SEC. And then we need to amend that original law that was approved in November of 2021. Because once Bitboy gets his bill approved, if we don't fix the law, then all of a sudden what we're going to have is we're going to have a new Fed. We're going to have a digital FinCEN, which is also what Senator Loomis, Cynthia Loomis from Wyoming, was proposing. She's also proposing a regulatory agency that's going to let SEC work with securities, CFTC with commodities, and then this new digital agency works with crypto. But again, none of them two And then I think there's a third proposal, not the one from Tom Emmers for CBDCs, but like a third proposal for uh, what's happening right now in crypto. They want to do clarification. They keep saying that word. Oh, we're trying to clarify. But then what they did was in all their proposals, they left the taxes portion similar. So a lot of, for example, me that work in crypto taxes, that's the first one I went for because I was like, oh, sure, I want to look what happened in Section 3. But then when you look at Section 4, 5, 6, 7, they give powers to the banks for stable coins. They call them stable payment system. And then they also add this new regulatory agency that, in my opinion, today, okay, Auntie Janet is saying that she's not going for us in DeFi, and that's good. But then we don't know what's going to happen then with Gensler. Is he going to come after then anything that moves and then it didn't get registered or exempt at some point? So that's what I'm thinking. I think in that if we let what Bitboy wants, which he says what basically what they're doing is just they want an independent uh, agency that's going to control crypto. But the problem is that day one,
Like
sure,
a
it's going to
digital
be
Fed of crypto. Kind of.
basically, and then the problem is that it's going to be sure day one is going to be Eric Voorhees, Vitalik, maybe Richard. So it's going to be people that we like. But what happens 110 years from now? What happens 10 months from now? You know, so it's just, I don't want to be that 100 years from now, JP Morgan was trying to tell us he was going to fix everything. And then now we have 110 years of the Fed. And
I've
so,
got to solve for this problem.
yes, sir.
The reason is because we use the term stable coin as US fiat based dollars, which is not stable. If you were stabling against an inflation thing that we claim is happening, are you really stable? No, you're moving in tandem with that particular asset. Problem is, the dollar is the petrodollar, the debt dollar, the war dollar. Now, how can you say that? Let's just say, let's take the series Man in the High Castle. Man in the High Castle, fantastic series. It's if Nazi Germany and Japan won World War II, it split the U.S. in half. At that point, I don't know what the German currency is versus what the yen or whatever it is, but at the end of the day, it's a stable unit of value is what we need to be saying when it comes to stable coin. It has nothing to do with USDC, nothing to do with the yen, nothing to do with the ruble, nothing to do with anything. It is a stable unit of value that expands as the environment expands. Just as you would say, again, an NFT, the first NFT was an attachment on an email, but that is your identity to say something has been writ and receipted that didn't get PC load letter if the fax machine didn't have copyright, if the landline was busy, all the rest of these mechanics that roll everything into one. And so if we, as leaders in this community, eventually put forth the point of what a stable coin is outside of the US dollar, which is hard because how do you call fire not fire? Dancy, bright, hotty thing that if I touch it, it burns, but yet I can cook food on it. No, you just say fire. You know what I mean? How much water is wet? It's really, really hard because it's been ingrained into our minds what these things are simplistically. And the robber barons have held these precipices over our head long enough that tithe, if you go back to all the old religious stuff, says that if you put something, not money, but tithe, suddenly you're forgiven of all your sins. It's no longer money when it goes to the church. It's a tithe. We have that problem with the term stable coin. And once we take our digital assets, which will be the future of everything, treat your wallet like a character, 3 years quoted, then stable becomes something different. And I think once we get to actually enforcing that with our protocols, with our processes, with our utility that we use, having to change the term from staking to mining is different. And I got hot last night on it because I walked into this shit. The reason why that was changed is because Bitcoin mining is not a security. It is the oldest first stamp in the sand. This is not a security. So now because you are miner McMiner face and you're a state nationalist person of me, I am mining for myself, which means I am not mining in a pool of other people's assets to be used with some funny money term from 1906 when all the people are dead that made it. And that is really how the vernacular and how they're using it against us, especially since the reason why we have to deal with these problems is because people shat on the bed above us, like FTX, 3 R's Capital, people that use leverage against one position to buy another position. Call it stock buybacks. All of those type of things, those people screwed up for the rest of us. That's why we have to step away from the terminology that we have. It's just hard because how do you call water wet? How do you call fire anything more than what it is? It's tricky.
How do you pronounce T-I-T-H-E?
Tithe.
Tithe, right?
I mean, tomato.
I just had to hear it one more time to make sure that we were. Yeah,
I mean, I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce it, but it's a tip that gives you absolution. It's
Your
no longer
tithings and ooferings.
Well, no. Here's the fucked up part. Where does the tithe go? When you get to pay something, here's my sin. I give you my monies. It's no longer money because clearly the church or any bound agent that can do things whether you believe in hippy dippy monster shit in the sky or not, where does the tithe go? Where does that money when it goes into an indoctrinated church or a pass-through of utility that's been usurped from robber baron days to now? Remember, the biggest thing that humans had over their head was reading back in the day. And that's why I keep saying knowledge is the most expensive token in the world. And that's what they can't take it from us now because we have the internet. Now that we have internet money, we have knowledge and utility on top of it. It's no longer seeing through a glass window, but we can learn about it. Hello? Now we actually have the ability to bind together and use utility of learning online to get paid online.
And accordingly in the chat, Muse Bandit, tithe, baby. Dun, 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 dun. Didn't take long. I was waiting for somebody in chat to hop on it. But anyway, back to the topic of stables. Given what was just said there, would it be safe to assume that both of you would be bullish on the stables coming to, say, a Liquid Loans and Power City?
Yeah. Well, the difference is those are algos. Can't say anything online, but I modeled out a way to use non-algorithmic stablecoin that was not attached to USD, that was bound to a T-share. And the thing is that it's a unit of measure. It is completely removed from the term USD. It is a unit of measure. That's very difficult to understand. And the couple people I've told about it, I don't know how to market this. I don't know what to do with this. And I'm like, I realize it's complex, but you have to deal something complex to get beyond what we've been told before. Think about, what is it, 2001 Space Odyssey, where you have all the monkeys channeling at the fucking column, and at the end, open the Pod Bay Doors how. That whole parody was what do you believe, understand, and surround you, to having machines not let you into a complex because its red light says no. And so we are all monkeys dealing with the terminology of what we have. And to address that, we have to evolve more than monkeys. We have to all be able to not be space Karens on our phone thinking that, oh, let me fix that for you, Google, or all the rest of that type of stuff. You have to take charge of the knowledge available to you. And using that, it will usurp the problem. Problem is, you can bring a horse to water. It doesn't mean the person that was on top of it knows what the fuck they're doing. Very, very, very different things.
Don't think I've heard it put that way, but leave it to Kool-Aid to give me that one. Thank you. Identity Block, thoughts on the algorithmic stables that hopefully will come sooner than later with PulseChain, Power City, Liquid Loans, those variations of the stable.
I think all those are going to do great, especially outside of the US. The part that I'm struggling is to figure out what they're going to do for us. Because us that we've been in DeFi and crypto before this thing was approved in November of 2021, they're going to have to figure out us. I want to use some of these products. So it's They were there, they were available before this law was passed. So I don't know how they're going to grandfather those products in. All I know is they have to figure out something. Uh, that's just the way I see it. I don't know just yet, because the thing is, I know that, for example, Coinbase, Kraken, all the ones that are going to be registered, they're going to decide which stables they're going to use, which they'll probably be USDC once they become part of the Fed, because they've been trying to become a charter of the Fed. They've been trying to be part of the Fed since April of 2021. So they're going to decide what coins they're going to use, but at the same time, in my opinion, they just cannot. This law just needs to change. This is the only thing I can think, is it has to be amended, because they cannot include DeFi stakers, they cannot include developers, they cannot include validators. Some of the stuff is just, they're going to have to adapt to us. It's the way I see it, because my only fear, and the reason that I keep saying it, is because I remember that a lot of people were thinking this is going to be great back in 2014, and then all of a sudden, when they approve all this, all the exchanges just said, oh well, we want to be compliant with the New York Financial Office of whatever it's called. So what we're going to do is, you need to KYC, or you need to close your account. And then that's the part that I didn't want it, like, especially people that might only have one or two off ramps, and then all of a sudden, like, both of them are censored for whatever reason. But as far as all these stable coins and all these platforms that are coming up to DeFi, they're going to have to figure out something for us, because like I said, in my case, when I started with Hex, I started with 2 Ethereum, and that was it. And if things go that way, then that story's over. You'll not be able to bring in $500, $300, $400 and then turn them into whatever.
Yeah, because they, I guess, throw it under the accredited investor for your protection crap. And it's just like, come on, man. Like, we all know that's not what it is about. It's protecting people. It's to keep it into a certain class of people only, which I think is probably, an end goal at some point. But
Yes,
I don't
sir.
know. That's where I'm at on that. Let's see. Um, while we're on the law section, I just had a couple more points here, questions for you. So, I guess these bills or laws, which are kind of just floating out there, in theory, who would they affect? New projects
Mm.
and products coming in, or is everything that happened in the past grandfathered in? How do you see that kind of playing out? Lost your
Great
audio.
question.
There you go.
Great question on that one, Cabana. The way it would affect, it would be anyone coming in after January of 2024. So, for example, if there's new developers, like this situation, that this opportunity that Richard is giving the community, that a lot of people have been building, that would be over, because at that point, then if you want to build, you have to go register. They have to approve you. I'm sure that now all of a sudden you need to have 8 million hours of blockchain experience. You need to have 25 years of blockchain experience, even though it's only been like however many years. So that's the type of situation that I think is going to start happening. They're going to be like, well, are you certified? Are you like, no, you need to for a haircut, you need 8,000 hours of practice before you need to do this and that. So I think that that's the type of stuff that we're going to start seeing, and then it's going to hold back the whole ecosystem, because we need this competitions, we need constant evolution. And then, I mean, Kool-Aid has mentioned it better than anyone. It's just, if we just control that, then all of a sudden, I mean, I know that all of a sudden all other countries are going to start, their developers are going to do more, and they're going to get involved with Solidity. I'm seeing already that Hong Kong is trying to open up more for retail. So, I
Mhm.
mean, that's a big chunk that a lot of people would be like, all right, well, I can't open an account here. Okay, I'll just go to Hong Kong then.
Or
And
Bama, what
yeah.
Randy's doing, or all the rest of that type of stuff. And you hit it right on the head with the hours of tenure to make yourself an expert. Again, why I get all hot and bother when people dirty the sacrifice I did to have the ability to speak on mechanics on command at an insane professional level, because I put my time in. Now, here's the way you fix that goddamn shit. We take out Citizens United. Once you take out Citizens United, and the way to do that
Mhm.
is by lobbying them with yield producing assets. At that point, they know that they're fucking the dollar up. And I got 15 minutes before I got up to my meeting, and then I'll be back in 30. But
if we're still
if
here,
you lobby them pay them with something that they know that they're fucking up the other way that they get paid, they know that they're fucking that up. Like, period. Every politician. I mean, what, DeSantis, or what's the one in New York that basically lied about everything? Was even a cross-dresser and didn't fucking give a shit about that. He can get put into a place that he can make bills, but he lied about everything else. What, is he not FDIC insured? Like, how does the regulation get put to the regulators? And that is first cutting off the head of the dragon, which is going to be take out Citizens United. At that point, they have a choice to be a hermit country like North Korea, because all the tech, all the innovation, everything is going everywhere else. And what, are you going to regulate a video game transaction where they pay you in a microtransaction for something that is not USD value? It's stable to itself. That's why I said changing the units and mechanics is difficult, because how do you call water wet? How much water is there till it's wet? It's very difficult because we've been accosted to this kind of thinking and system. The thing about a glass ceiling is you don't know when it comes down because it's all evergreen when you look up. But it could be right next to your nose. It could be 2 feet in front of you. You do not know. And that is where you cut the head off the dragon, is by doing that particular thing. Take out Citizens United, start lobbying with other things. That's why I thought it was brilliant when, again, people tornado dusted senators. Oh, shit. Apparently you're a terrorist.
And celebrities and all that. It was great.
Well, yeah. But celebrities is one thing. When you do it to regulators.
Well, that was a bonus.
Yeah. Sure. But celebrities have more public things about them. And usually celebrities aren't 80 years old. Thing is, people that make the laws are. They don't even remember they remember a life when they actually had carts and buggies and horses and barely a car.
And they have crypto wallets?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's fucking amazing. I bet you those senators also don't know how to ride a horse either. But horses were the most fucking important part of our utility as a civilization. And so you're going to tell me you were around when cars or airplanes barely turned into gliders, and now going to regulate shit that you don't know how to drive. And that is the problem, is you have a whole bunch of people in the peanut gallery trying to make assumptions. And it's the same thing you have with DAOs and how well the rest of that works. Technically, a DAO is just hello world with no CEO. It can be more complex than that, and it should be. But is Maker DAO really a DAO? No, 4 people own fucking over 51% of it. So obviously the vote of the DAO goes to the robber barons that own the majority of it. It is not a decentralized autonomous organization. What it is a scripting platform that executes commands. So it's just hello world. It does not have a CEO due to the way that things work. Now, as we know as Hexicans, we're the smart people, having majority shareholding in an asset allows you to usurp and own liquidity pools and all of the rest of the things that allows the pumpamentals mechanics to work correctly. You also don't want to give voting rights to people that don't know what the fuck they're doing. I've said it 1 trillion times. The worst thing about being a game developer is fucking gamers. They buy a $50 game and now they think they could build it. It's like someone going to Chipotle, buying a burrito, and then screaming at the chef in the back like they're Gordon Ramsay. Take your $8 burrito, get the fuck out. I really don't care about your care and feelings. And so we have the idiocracy problem that people are being dumber and people aren't holding their merit weight to learn more, which is behooving the ability for them to step on our throats.
However, a former happy hour word of the show, behoove, by the way, for you happy hour historians out there.
As long as we're not playing trivia. I do love you, Cabana. That's why you're allowed to chain wake me up on 3 hours of sleep to come on screen before I got to go deal with a boss. But yes, the ability for all of this is moving faster than they can keep a hold of. But at the end of the day, we need to take it to the lobbying aspect. Otherwise, we will be hermits. Now, here's the other thing that ID was saying is that you're not air quote grandfathered in, which is, again, why we went back to mining now, because the term mining from Bitcoin is grandfathered in. And that is inherently of itself how Richard's trying to timey-wimey spin the Howey test onto you are your own miner, because mining itself has no pooling from others. You are now, granted, they do have mining pools, so this is going to be idiosyncrasy. I don't understand that, but that's what the terminology is. Sorry, they're fucking sawzawing shit. So I don't know if you can hear that. But that in itself is a point of metric. But here's the fun part: once your money's in crypto, it doesn't fucking matter.
Speaking
the thing
of
is getting in or out. That is the trick.
There you go. Great
speaking
point.
of mining, Ash brought this to my attention in the chat. Thanks, Ash. Richard Hart literally just tweeted this. Write down a number, no tax. Do some math, no tax. Publish the number on the web, no tax. Call it Bitcoin mining. Tax. This is illogical. Who will bring the case to court?
Let's go.
And really, the thing is that if they put fair infrastructure up to be paid for their taxes, but oh, I forgot. I thought we had crony capitalism where only the rich got paid. That's why only accredited investors can do things, because they have this magic number that says you're the privileged, the few, the elite class who's allowed to speak. Now, did I just say that from the DAO point of view? Maybe not everyone should be trying to captain a boat that's never been on the water before. Yes, that's probably a good idea. I don't want fucking Space Karen to come fucking take over my plane.
I think all Karens are from space, are they not?
No, but Elon is the biggest.
Sorry, any Karens out there watching the show. Right.
Well, yeah, I mean, I feel bad for anyone actually named Karen. But at the end of the day, I think I saw an article of some bitch banging on a fucking captain's like locked door because I have to have that after like Shoe McBomber face fucking happened, to complain about her fucking thing. It's like going to the captain of a plane mid-air and asking to speak to his manager. What? I thought your job was to not die. That is my job, is to take you off, not die, and land you and deposit you somewhere. There is no manager besides you not dying. Get back in your seat, Karen. Right?
Yes.
Drives me fucking batty.
I wouldn't have been able to tell. Mango Junkie, yes. I think we've all known or know a Karen in our lives. It was a popular name back in the day. I think it was kind of popular when I was in school. It was like the end phase of the Karen era. And I don't even know what came in after that. Michaela or something? I don't know.
Janice from accounting.
Or Emma, baby Emma. That was like the Friends year, decade, whatever it was. Anyway, while we have a Kool-Aid, just Ethereum.
I mean, I'll be back in I think the meeting won't be like
you say that.
They're not actually having me work. They're having me talk about things. And usually that means that they don't know what they're doing and the meeting is short. When I have to do something, that means I work around the clock.
Gotcha. But Ethereum, so I was going to bring up the way it's headed. I mean, we're possibly coming out of this bear market, and fees sometimes just due to whatever random crap protocol, NFT. Just
no. There's a 3-letter coin that we don't like to talk about.
I'm talking. There's a few of them out there that.
The chart.
Yeah, there's a few of them out there that contributed to it, but where do we see ETH in like 5, 10, 15 years? Does it make eHex unusable? Some people.
No.
Some people say yes. I don't. I'm bullish eHex.
I would like to talk to these some people, because I always say when I find some would say when I find them they're in fucking trouble. I've been listening to some people would say for a long goddamn time, and when I find you you're in fucking trouble. So Ethereum
don't peruse Telegram or Twitter or YouTube comment streams, but anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, believe me, the Karens are everywhere. So ETH gas fees suck dick. It's also a necessary merit of the beast. Now, what is the difference, Cabana, between a steam engine and a nuclear reactor?
Good point.
Come on, Cabana.
What?
Trivia. No,
Tell me.
trivia. Nothing. You're right. It's absolutely nothing.
Same.
They're spinning the goddamn same fucking turbines to use water to cool. Now, they first were putting fire in there. But now we've got materials that have a hyperbolic state. And that's where you get nuclear meltdown, all the rest of that stuff. But they're still turning turbines to spin little machines. It's a very more complex Rube Gold machine. And that is exactly what is happening with that. Now, with Ethereum gas, we can hope in 10 years all the shit gets fixed. But I can tell you how
They're banking on sharding, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's sharding with a D, chat.
Yeah, not sharting with a T. I got 5 minutes. But if we take,
I got plenty for identity block, so you're good. Go ahead.
So let's see. If we take they're not going to be coming after hex stakers first. They're going to come after Ethereum first, because now the commodity of people staking is within a particular region that they think that their geolocation is also their jurisdiction. That is where they are harvesting your identity as a wallet to say that you exist within this internet block protocol of service providers to do something else. Same thing as you would have if you want to go the reverse with the hermit country, that you can't get out forever. It's not like they point the guns at other places. Yeah, they do. But half of them are pointed the other way. That way other people cannot get out. And that is the tricky point right now, is that the Fed and government agencies are pointing their guns back at us because they have nowhere else to go. It, again, is another game of the man in the high castle. So you have to look at how all these things interim into each other. Will the Ethereum staking fees be more expensive? No, you could do rolling day stakes. Stakehouse is looking at different things to do that. Technically, Maximus DAO did a type of way that everyone's pooling gas together. It's a good start. It's a good
but
start.
For legacy stakes, you're kind of
no, but that's not necessarily true. Remember, people barely understood a T-share for the first 2 years. Alex made a Casahedron, and I've been screaming for her, which is scripting onto a T-share. What you could do is have a layer 2 that unstaked it for you at a cheaper rate. There are also, the most convenient way is to mint your, let's say, Hedron on PulseX, mint your Hex on fucking PulseChain. Then from there, bridge over that asset value to unpay your Hedron on that chain, and then use all of that metric value to unstake your Hex, should you have to, in 10, 15, 7, whatever years. But let's be adults here. In 7 years, well, how long has the internet been? I've got 2 minutes. The internet's been around 20 years, something like that. Before that, we had libraries, we had payphones, we had pagers, we had all these infrastructure that dominated everything. And now you don't think in another 10 years, with as fast as Metcalfe's law and Moore's law is moving, that we can't figure out a layer 2 solution to pool together and harvest gas? It ain't gonna happen. Guys, I will be back in 15 or 20.
Thank you, Kool-Aid.
Yes, sir.
Briss says at least 5 years, but I mean, it's taken them years to.
Yeah, exactly.
It took years to get what, ETH2?
6 years. I heard that story for 6 years. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's your take on this identity block? You think it'll be like Ethereum will be like the rich man's chain, and only those accredited investors, if you will be able to play on it, and then we'll have these pulse chains and others that a lot of other activity will occur for cheaper prices and fees?
Great question. I think if we don't change this IIJA, that's what it'll happen, because they don't care. This problems that we just discussed for the last few minutes, people with millions of dollars in Ethereum, they don't even know that happens, because like you mentioned, they might buy their coins OTC, so they don't have to care about slippage, they didn't have to care about this, they didn't have to care about high gwei, they didn't have to care about nothing like that, doing multiple transactions like we have to do, because we just don't have to acquire, but then we had to move it, then we had to stake it, then we had to do our ladders. So we have to do multiple transactions. So we are looking at the GUE, and their side, we tell them GUE and they are not even going to know, because they're not affected by it. So if we cannot amend this IIJA, that's what's going to happen, because the brokers are not going to care. They're just going to, Ethereum could become one of these just dead chains because it's too expensive to do anything. The other thing that could happen is that PulseChain and other chains are so popular that we just take some of that demand. And at that point, it's almost like we force them to lower the fees, right? Because then it's like, well, now, okay, you want to keep GUE at 100? Bye. I'm just going to use these other chains.
And that's Richard's stated goal
Yes, sir.
when PulseChain
Exactly.
begins. Take the load
Remember that.
off
Yes, sir.
Ethereum. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. If they don't want to work, then sure, we'll just take 5, 10, 50% of your business, and then we'll force you to figure out something. Because at that point, the people that stay, they're going to look at them and be like, well, are you going to fix this, or do we need to leave too?
Yeah.
And
Especially like those gas intensive protocols. I guess, obviously they would be the first to, look elsewhere. Be like, man, I can't, pay this for a transaction or something like that. And then they're like, oh, it's that cheap over there, and I got all my coins copied over there. I'm gonna look over there. So
exactly. That's what I think it's going to happen, because in the last 2-3 weeks, we went from averaging maybe 12, 15 GUE. Now we're averaging almost more than double. And so now the way I see it, anyone that was building 2-3 weeks ago in Ethereum, now all of a sudden their cost is doubled. So now their budget got cut in half. So I don't even know how they're doing it, because on our side, the days that GUE is too high, well, that day I'm not going to buy. That day I'm not going to do my staking ladders or my strategies. But then I can wait 2 days, or I can wait till Saturday. But someone that has to do their 9 to 5s, and then they're directly affected by all these changes. I don't know how they do it.
that was, I guess, a follow-up question is like, does it affect your staking strategy at all? So far, it hasn't to me, because I'm just like, you know what? If I make a stake on Ethereum years out, hopefully PulseChain will be out by then. Uh, but the copy is going to be there no matter what. And so
Exactly.
it's like, okay, and whatever happens on Ethereum, I get that. I have the right to that copy. I don't know what the fees are going to be like, but say we do get a solution, why not, I wouldn't be discouraged, at least I'm not, by staking on Ethereum right now or altering my staking behavior or anything like that.
Correct.
How
Yeah,
about
as
you?
of right now, I haven't changed anything. So basically, every 3 months, I throw off a Cuatro Cinco. That's what I've been doing. That way, there was a lot of people that were focusing on the HSIs coming out and all the stuff. But I remember seeing as Hex was dipping, I remember thinking, well, what if I can just keep buying Hex? I lock it. It pays me more Hedron. And then when the HSI auction started, then the price of Hex had gone down to like 2 point something. At that point, I was like, all right, well, I don't even need to burn the Hedron. I could just keep buying Hex, and then I lock it, get more Hedron, don't burn it, but I still have the HSI, so I didn't have to even fight for it in auction. So there were all kinds of options happening at the same time, and I just decided to stick to that one. It benefited me because all of a sudden we had the merch, and then I got it times 3, then it'll be times 4. So all those t-shirts just paying, and then paying also Hedron. So that's what I've been doing. I'm thinking the way you're thinking. I'm thinking that between now and 15 years, Ethereum's going to have to figure out something. And if not, then those get copied into PulseChain, and then I just leave them over there, and I'll figure out something else on that side later.
Yeah, and there's some optimism in the chat. I mean, Spike is like echoing Kool-Aid solutions will be created or roundabouts. I don't think roundabouts are necessarily the best answer, because some people think crypto is hard enough as it is. So it's like, oh, you got to jump. You want me to jump through 5 hoops now just to get my stuff back? So I don't know. I don't know. I guess like we're still talking on Ethereum. I think I sent you that Cointelegraph piece. Did you have a take on that? The ERC 4337. I'll pull it up here. But
Okay.
it was had to deal with those smart account wallets, I think it was. Where are we at? Where are we at? So yeah, I guess it was ETH Denver. Ethereum ERC 4337. Smart accounts launch at WalletCon. Account abstraction is here, so it's kind of where was, I guess, a good summary in here. New users will no longer need to learn about complicated seed phrases or the technical process of setting up a wallet to onboard into the decentralized world of crypto, was told to Cointelegraph. The next billion users is not going to write down 12 words on a piece of paper. Normal people don't do that. We need to give them better usability. They shouldn't need to think about cryptographic keys. I mean, if we're talking onboarding, sure, sounds great, but
Right.
I'm not going to be the first to sign up. And but any opinions on this quick thing? I only bring this up because somebody tweeted me about it and just wanted a quick comment on it. So.
Gotcha. I mean, I like it. It's good. You know, it's technology, it's improvements. The problem that I have is just this seems like something that people would be using outside of the U.S. because if we continue the way we're going, then we're going to have to be using the wallets that Coinbase give us. We'll be lucky if we're actually dealing with actual crypto instead of like paper crypto. Because I don't know if the brokers are just going to say, all right, you have a little number here in the blockchain. Here, I'm going to show it to you through my user interface. Or are they actually going to let us use crypto in the US? So if that, I guess that's where I'm on that. It's just, that's why I keep saying that if we can fix that law, then I'll feel a lot better because I don't have to speculate of what type of coins I'll be able to use and which ones not. I'll be able to just say, well, I'm going to use whatever, whatever's available. And then it's so, but it's good. It's good tech.
So all of the law talk and tax talk that we've done, I just wanted to like put a bow on it and maybe a positive bow.
Of course.
Do you think DeFi will be okay? True DeFi will be okay.
I think that nothing's going to affect DeFi. I think if the US does this, it's just going to be a small hiccup, and then people are going to figure out a way to just transact in other ways. They'll use VPNs, they'll use other ways, they'll move outside of the US. It'll be the same problem that people were having in 2014 when all of a sudden they're in New York and they're saying, all right, well, now you can use this, you cannot use that, you cannot use this other platform. So people will just adapt. The problem is that I want other people that come after us to have the same opportunities that we did, because I think even the US won't have problems, because sure, they're going to have way less people in quote unquote crypto, but then they're going to have the fatter accounts. So I'm sure they'll say, all right, well, I won 5% of this $1 billion that you made. And then they'll be like, all right, well, that's us having 10,000 people with $100 in Coinbase or something. So the problem is that I think that not even the money is going to be an incentive for them to keep it open. So yeah, I mean, I think DeFi is going to do great, but it's up to what
good for
happens in
hexagons.
Yeah, no, exactly. For us, it's going to be great. I mean, I have no doubt that nothing's going to happen to us because this product was out December of 2019. This law was approved and signed in November of 2021.
And hopefully,
So
PulseChain launches before 2024.
There you go.
I
think it will.
Right. Yeah. That I'll leave that question for a little later. I wanted to bring up this by Brizology. If they can't stop the Pirate Bay, they can't stop crypto, and that's a fair point, Briz. So there you go. So yeah, we ran through that. So yeah, we touched on PulseChain. We've gone through pretty much most of the list. I said this was going to be a lightning round. I mean, it's been a little over an hour, but now to the some fun speculation before we wrap up. ID. When PulseChain, sir?
Ooh.
All right, let's go first. Testnet. Do we get testnet this month? Do you think?
I think so. Well, not this month.
You still have to wait. for
in a
testnet?
month. It's just back in October, RH had a talk with Ivan, and I think at some point I tried to look up for that clip and I could not find it. So I don't know if maybe I made it up, but at some point in that interview, I think he says that we might have V3 Uni. And at that point, I remember thinking, well, if that's the case, then it'll have to be after April
Wait,
1st
April
because of the
1st. Yep.
license. So what I don't know is if he can do a test net with V3 before the license is approved. So I think that if that's not the case, if he cannot have a public test net with that protocol, the V3 from Uni, then it might be after a month from now when it's after April 1st, and then the license is open to anyone, and then maybe he can launch V3, run it for however many days, and then maybe at the time where it's 2 years of PulseChain sacrifice, then maybe we
Thinking
have
like a July
mainnet,
kind of thing. Yeah.
something like that.
I've been
Hopefully,
saying May. I'm going to stick to it because I made my bed. I'll sleep in it. I've said it for a while now, so we'll see. Partly because of the April 1st reasoning, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's the V3 Uni is pretty much the code is there. It's just the licensing, right? So it'd be
yeah,
almost a
exactly. There you
flip
go.
of a switch. So it's not like,
Yes,
oh my
sir.
gosh, now we made it to April 1st. Now there's another delay. It's not like that at all. It's like
Yes,
it,
sir. It's like they call it open source, but it's like proprietary. So it's like somebody owns it, and then of course, I mean, we could have used it already. It's just we would have had to pay them,
yep,
and then I don't know
the
how much they
licensing
would
or
charge for
whatever
the
it was.
licensing. Yep.
Yep. All right. So you're thinking July. I'm going to stick, like I said, to May, but we'll see. We'll see. Last one on the list. It's also Pulse Chain related. I'll just bring up this tweet I saw from K4K today and get your take on it before we get out of here. Where are we at? Where are we at? Where are we at? So K4K. I still see this talking point about PulseX maybe falling below the original sack rate because people sacked solely for PulseX to swap for PulseChain. People forget that the sack rate was based on dollar value, not PulseChain value, PLS. So here's a scenario to portray the point. Pulse goes up 10x versus a sack rate at launch, then PulseX is sold for Pulse so much that the rate becomes 2-to-1, meaning it takes 2 PulseX to equal 1 Pulse.
Right.
If Pulse is 10x the sack rate, which is in dollar terms, then that means Pulse X is 5x the sack rate. So if you think Pulse Chain will be at 10x the sack rate, and at the same time believe Pulse X will fall below the sack rate, when you're saying Pulse X, stay with me. When you're saying Pulse X will be at or worse than an 11-to-1 ratio to Pulse, which is of course ridiculous. So
right.
take on that, because I'm glad to see somebody put math to it and try to offer a mathematical explanation rather than just theorizing. So thank you, K4K, if you're watching or watch later. But
well, if we use the total supply, so the total supply of PLSX, total supply of Pulse, it should be like 3.33 to 1 at the launch houses. So not the pools, not the liquid, just everything. So 150 trillion Pulse to 500 or what. So those are the numbers that some people are throwing out there. I don't agree with this statement because I think that there's a lot of people that think they brought $1 and it's almost like going to Costco, so they're going to get $1 back. And I don't think that's the case. I think the dollar that you brought in, the only thing that was used for was to determine the supply and to determine your allocation of funds of PLSX, right? The other thing I don't agree with is since we're going to have that 24 to 48 hour window, that window is going to remove a lot of the FOMO. So, for example, everyone
I'm
that
talking the
wants
ratio trading window.
trading window, exactly. So that one, there's not going to be value at that point, right? So then we're going to be launching that window. Then a lot of people that wanted their Pulse, they're going to decide if the ratio is right. So if it's to start the 3.33, then of course, if a lot more people bring in their PLSX, it will happen what he mentions of the 11-to-1, 10-to-1 type of situation. But the problem is that all that's happening in that window. So the FOMO, there's no dollar value. And then after the FOMO's taken out, meaning everyone that wants their Pulse with their PLSX, they acquire it through that window. I mean, the window is brilliant because basically Richard is removing all that volatility that we would have on day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then what's going to happen is once everybody gets what they want, meaning, sure, I think that a good deal would be 5 to 1, 6 to 1, 10 to 1, and then I'll just get a bunch of PLSX to acquire the Pulse. Some of us, we're actually looking at the other way. If I see it even 6 to 1, 7 to 1, or 10 to 1, I'm actually going the other route where I'm probably just going to convert some of my Pulse into PLSX and then get a bigger bag that way. But the thing is, once that window is closed, we launch a zero. So at that point, it's zero. And then we have to determine what's the first trade. So I think that some of the stuff that he's saying gets removed in that 24 to 48 hour window. And then again, once the window is open, we launch at zero, but then the FOMO is out. So the people that wanted to acquire a Pulse, they already got it. It's in their bag, and then we launch. And of course, there's going to be new people trying to buy the Pulse, but I don't think it's going to do this. I think that both coins will go under SAC value. I know that. I mean, I've been saying this since we were in the PulseChain chat. I used to put
that was my next question. So there you go.
No, I mean that hasn't changed because my original statement was before even we had PLSX. So before it was even PLSX, I remember thinking Pulse will go down because people will have it on day 1. So day 1, they just get the coins, and weak hands do weak hands things. They're gonna go after maybe the PRCs, or maybe they're gonna go after this and that option. I'm not saying it's good strategies, because I'm telling everyone, if I were you, don't use your airdrop for anything. Not the PLSX, not the Pulse, not to ratio swap, not to move it in the first 365 days, so that at least you get the tax benefit. And then you would, I mean, and this isn't, you're in the States, then you could pay long-term cap gain. But yeah, if you're going to try to do any of these plays, bring in new fiat, just bring it through the bridge, and then that way you acquire what you want, but then you're not moving your original airdrop or your original position. It's just, I mean, I agree with this if there was no window. You know what I mean? If there was not that window that was going to remove so much
Like
of
the
the
2
FOMO,
day
the 2-day ratio window.
trade.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir. So if we just launch, let's
We're
say
thinking
that,
it's 2 days, but yeah. Could be
right,
24 hours.
exactly. We don't know anything exactly.
Right.
It's like maybe there's a window though of ratios.
Right.
So yeah, if that was the case, I would agree with the original ratios that he's talking about, because then I don't agree that it would be $1 per dollar, but I do agree that then people would give it that valuation faster. There would be price discovery a little bit faster, because people would just be like, all right, well, I want this Pulse, so I mean, I have a big old bag of PLSX, let me just swap it, and then now the bag of PLSX would have had value, the bag of Pulse would have some value, and then you're just doing it for fiat. But I think that window is gonna be really good for us, because it's just gonna remove some of that FOMO. And then once they launch, then people have to decide, where do I want to pay this much? Do I not want to pay that much for a PLSX? But yeah, I mean, I would agree with the whole tweet if there was not that 24-hour or 48-hour window where a lot of people, I mean, I feel bad for saying this, but a lot of people are going to get burned, because they're going to use.
That's my fear. I do.
Oh, it's going to
think,
happen.
Yeah.
And the sad part is, like, they're not even going to know, because they're going to turn a 5 to 1, 10 to 1 PLSX bag, and then so they can turn 100 million PLSX into 10 million Pulse. And if that's what they wanted Pulse, it's going to launch a zero. So in their minds, they're going to be like, oh, great, I did good. But in reality, the swap was not in their benefit. So that's why I'm saying, if you don't know ratios, don't touch your bags on that window, because you can turn a big old bag of PLSX into a tiny bag of Pulse, and it might be disappointing. Well, maybe all you had to do is just sit, wait. And then if a lot of people with Pulse, which I think is what's going to happen, I think at first a lot of people are going to, I don't want to say they're going to dump their Pulse, like they don't want it or whatnot, but I think that they're going to figure out, oh, with one Pulse, I can do 1,000 transactions. Awesome. Well, now maybe I don't need 10 million Pulse. Maybe I can just swap 9 million of these into this PRC, or maybe PulseX at that point is doing its thing, and it's going to be pumping. And then maybe they'll say, all right, well, I'm going to go for that. So I think there's going to be a lot of interesting things going the first few days.
How about this strategy from Jules? I'm not ratio trading. I'm going to do nothing with my sacrifice. New money buys Hex. Hex stakes are airdrop hunters. I use that yield to dabble. Fair.
There you go.
I mean, there's a
That's a
lot
good
of
one.
strategies out there, but yeah, I mean, we've seen all the airdrops that have come to Hex stakers, and could be more.
Yeah.
coming up.
The problem I don't think it's going to be doing swaps. It's just understanding the ratio, understanding that if it's at like K4K was mentioned, if it's 11 to 1, 10 to 1, then you're going to turn 11 million PLSX into 1 million Pulse. So just, if PLSX is at 0.003 and then and Pulse is even a little higher, then it might be a good deal. There's other things that are going to be happening. Just be careful, because what I think is going to happen is that there's going to be a lot of people that all they needed to do was, all right, well, I couldn't get into Pulse. Let me just sit with my bag of PLSX and then wait for that to appreciate. And then maybe PLSX appreciates one day at the same time Pulse is depreciating. And maybe you get 20 to 1 that day. But it would have been later at a different time.
Indeed. Tigre, good to have a plan before it drops. Don't just wing it. Yep. Emotions, FUD, and FOMO all going to be on blast for sure. Marco, good to see you, man. Not touching anything. I'll let the market go crazy and activate the burn features and buy and burn, make our bags higher. Yep. I've said this for a long time. I'm just grabbing a bag of popcorn and watching the fireworks fly, because
there you go. I think that's going to be the best play, because if we're just swapping out of positions and then all of a sudden maybe we'll do that, maybe we'll swap 3, 4, 5 million PLSX for 500,000 Pulse, and then next week then the PLSX appreciates faster. So maybe doing nothing was the right place.
Yeah. AMM bot question for you. We find it from FOMO Hexual. How will the AMM bot affect these ratios? Won't it be buying up all the liquidity off DEXs, so any potential ETH that copied over will actually become Pulse, so the ratios will be way out on the DEXs?
The ratios are right now almost like at 1 million, so 1,000,035. So
just like
Pulse
slightly
to 1
off
ETH.
of, it's not exact, but basically million, right?
Something like that. Yeah. So I don't know how it's going to affect, because I don't know yet the AMM what's going to be in there. So I'm not trying to even speculate right now. I just know that it's like 1 point something million to 1 ETH.
Cool. I think we got through all the questions. I got another one or two for you if you have time.
Of course.
I guess just one, but it could be a multi-pronged answer. So the PulseChain ecosystem, I think last I checked, there is like 170, 80, approaching 200 projects on the platform. Do you have any ones that, have to tell me if you sack for them, or feel free to, say whatever you want, but do you have some that you're really looking forward to over some others?
Well, I only sacrifice for PLSX. I try to keep it very simple. At one point, there was just too many products and projects coming out for me to even start auditing and this and that. So I decided, you know what, I'll just keep it simple. And then hopefully if later something pops that I like, I'll buy a dip over there. Protocols I liked. I know they were doing one with a Lightning Network. So I didn't sacrifice for that, but I did kind of cover it because I thought it was interesting. We could bring in people from Bitcoin into PulseChain. At some point, I liked Hurricash, which it was going to be like a mixer type tumbler for us. But I don't know how now the Department of Treasury is going to, if they're just going to say, oh, well, since that's a copy, then it's the same. Or so those type of tools. I noticed that recently there were the guys were doing the leverage ones, which you should be careful what type of products you're using. But then if you know that the market is going to go down, you're going to have to be waiting. So there's tools that you can use, and then there's the lending platforms that I also checked.
Yeah,
I just
want famous platforms like
there you go.
Famous and Fiat, and Buck just had a Spaces today. If anybody can wants to look that up and listen to it. Another coin is coming to that SAC set and maybe some other sets of coins that you may or may not own. TBD, but go listen to that one, because that again is another ecosystem launching on PulseChain. Liquid loans, I guess, falls into that financial category, and so much stuff. So,
oh yeah.
Sorry, I cut you off. Any other?
No. We're going to have a lot of great products coming into PulseChain, so just be ready. Try to learn how to use them, so that way when you're receiving, like someone had mentioned, you have your plan, and then you're not like, oh, what do I do? What do I do? How do I use this? Some people still not learning how to use the liquidity pools or limit orders, or how to be able to extract some of your value without getting wrecked to slippage. So all those, this is the time to do it. Do it in the bear market. Do it where we're not in the where all the fireworks
not
are
in the heat of the moment, and don't be trying to
exactly.
learn when the FUD, FOMO, and emotions, as someone said before, are on blast. Tigre. So yeah, perfect. I've said the same thing. I think K4K has been on the show, and it's just like, have your plan in place. Like, now's the time. This is what a test net is for. So get comfortable, get used to it. Like, do it with your eyes closed, and then that way when stuff starts going crazy, which it will after the launch, we have no idea when it'll launch, it's gonna go crazy, and it's gonna be madness, and I'm just gonna be loving it, sitting back and watching it. But if you want to dive in, have a plan, know what you're doing, and that's not financial advice, that's life advice, just saying. So yeah, man. All right, well, I guess we're about to wrap, because we've gone through just about everything. We've got all the questions in the chat. So I want to say thank you to Krypto Kool-Aid. He's off on a work call. But as we finish off every show, ID Block, where can we find you, man?
Well, thank you so much, Cabana, for having me and having this talk that it could turn so monotonous and all that. But I think it's good that we know about it, and we're prepared. That way January 1st happens, and then we're not surprised by an exchange not allowing us to withdraw or something like that. So to anyone that wants to reach me, I'm Identity Block on all the platforms. So Twitter, Telegram, YouTube. I've been trying to put a little bit of videos on the regulation and the changes that have been happening. Shout out to Lit. My life is awesome.
Lit.
We were able to do a video on D-Day that it was approved in November of 2021.
That was in November. I think I listened to it like that night or the next day. So that was cool. It was very timely. So thank you guys for doing that.
Yeah, so that's about it. I just trying to pump our hex bags, pump our pulse bags, and we'll be here for the next 15, 30, or 45 years. So
nice. I like the sound of it, man. On one of the chains, if not two, maybe more, But good stuff. Well, thanks again to Kool-Aid, Identity Block. We'll be back here same time next week. We have Dave Levine, who many of you know from he was one of the first people to interview Richard Hart about Bitcoin hex back in the day. He's been on the show a time or two. I'm sure we're going to talk some Ethereum, and at the same time, I would love to get his take on the PH ecosystem. So Buck and company may be here from the Fiat and Famous ecosystem to talk some of that. So that should be a really fun show. They all are. So there's a little something different every week. Last week we were like charts and moons, and this week we're about game theory, Kool-Aid, game theory, and law and taxes, and of course Ethereum, PulseX, PulseChain. We covered it all here. So good stuff, man. Thank you, chat. You guys were awesome. And yeah, we'll see you next week, 5 p.m. Eastern on Friday. Cheers, everybody.